Heaven Burns Red. This is a tentative recommendation because with every other game that I play on this channel or every other game that we say, hey, try this out, hey, I'm enjoying this, I can usually say relatively comfortably that either A, if you're into this type of style, you're going to enjoy it, or B, there's a lot of longevity in it, whether that be in the content that's available, whether that be in the characters you can like, and there's something for everybody. HBR is a game that is entirely story-based. I'd say this is better as a visual novel and think of it like that than think of it like a gacha game. I don't think there's much game as there is much story. Now, on that exact same note, even though something like Blue Archive has a lot of characters that you can look at and a lot of characters that you can get with both their relationship stories, their base variations, their alternate variations, and so on, Blue Archive at least has some degree of gameplay. It has some endgame, and I think the combat can be enjoyable. Here, the combat is there, and don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but this is a gacha game that feels old despite just being released globally now. First off, these are the banners. You have an ordinary recruitment banner, which are being featured here. This is the launch banner, so by the time you're watching this, some of these are probably going to be gone. These are your ticketed banners. These require you to have these tickets already saved. This reminds me a lot of FGO in terms of just the overall style of this menu. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that if you've seen FGO, this may feel dated. I would also like to preface this by saying A ranks to S ranks to SS. There is no distinctive difference within that character. And by that I mean, they may all have distinctive abilities for their respective card. If I'm coming through here and I'm going through my roster, yes, there are distinctive differences between the characters you employ. The memorials are their respective abilities. And so you can have a character who have the A rank of, the S rank of, and the double S rank variations of. Ruka here as an example. But these are, unlike Blue Archive, not different variations to the extent to where you get a different relationship story or affection story. This is just the same character. And so having an A rank of a character you like is good enough if you just wanted to experience their story, respective. Now, I will also state that if you're looking into the bond stories of this game, they're okay. I think that this game is heavily dependent on its main story, and that is probably going to draw you in. Jun Maeda, I love the MC of this game. She is adorable. The main squad, I like all of them. I like Happy Tama. I like Karen. I like Toji. She's our intel agent. I don't care as much about either of these two, but that's beside the point. I like the MC a lot, and every other character I've seen thus far, I do like, even ones I didn't expect to, like Seika here. And I think that regardless of the circumstance, the main squad or the characters are the reason you play, similarly to Blue Archive. The gameplay is dated, and the graphical style of this game feels more like a 2D or 2000 animated game, or just a 2000 PS2 era game. It doesn't look that good, and I understand it's a mobile game, but still, releasing as of it is right now with the current competition out there is, I think, a bit finicky, because even default mobile games look usually better than it. Now, graphics aren't everything, gameplay isn't everything. Gameplay is a big portion of why you would play, and I think that if I'm saying, my blunt opinion of this game, this is a great game or a great story, not a good gacha game, because I don't see much reason to gacha. If you don't like the gameplay, you're not gonna gacha in the game, you're just gonna read it, and the main story is the main draw of this anyway, and contrary to something like Arknights or something like Aether Gates, the gameplay doesn't inherently change between each character. For instance, this is a squad I'm currently using. You have 3 on-field characters, i.e. these first 3 are your on-field, and these ones are your off-field ones. You can swap them out freely. Basically, this is my entire squad. These 3 are on-field, these 3 are off-field. If I need to break the enemy, I'm taking up my breaker, I'm sliding them in place of my attacker, and that's that. It's free, it does not cost anything, it does not cost a turn or anything like that, so it's perfectly fine to do. And so once you have 6 characters that basically fulfill the roles you want them to, you're set. And it's not like there's any distinctive benefits, for instance, filling out an entire squad of individuals from within a same canonical squad. So you can distinctly just look at a character and decide, hey, I like them, I'm going to use. If you like the art, go ahead. From a fan service standpoint, there is none. If you're looking at the 3D models, this is what they look like in game. There is a instanced world, i.e. a hub space that you're going through, but for the most part, you'll only be doing that on occasion to either find characters to do a bond story with, or to subsequently purchase materials, and so on. It's not really going to be something you're running around with. This is not an open world. So if I'm recommending this, I want to say I'm recommending this on the basis that you enjoy its story. I am not recommending this on the basis that you enjoy its gameplay. I think that if you're looking for something turn-based or team-based, there's a wide variety of characters. If you're looking for something with fan service, this is not going to be it. If you're looking for something with a good main character, a good main cast, it's voice acted, and a solid form of characterization, that's what this game is for. This is not something I'd say the story is hyper unique and interesting, because the premise is very basic. The characters are what carry it, not the concept. Personal favorites, the MC, which is a rarity among games. She's voiced, she has a personality. You do determine different traits, as an example here, depending on what you answer. You can vaguely shift your character's traits here in this instance, but obviously a lot of times you will be distinctly going after these. One of the things I think this game kind of does okay, well, not necessarily kind of does okay, more so a slight annoyance, is that you do need to hit certain stat points to be able to have a conversation with certain NPCs. As an example, from going through my roster here, if I wanted to interact with, let's say, Ichigo in this instance, I may have to have kindness level 9 or level 8, and so I have to spend some time going and specifically raising that up. And now that may not take long, but it's still a minor inconvenience depending on what you're trying to do. Secondarily, if we're going through this section, section on the main story, your socializations with NPCs, you can do them and they will be limited depending on what you're doing that day. But because this is a time-based game, one thing you would need to consider is that this is chapter 1, day 2. So you may need to pick, are you going to interact with Yuki or are you going to interact with somebody else on that exact same day? Now, obviously you can redo them, but hey, that's dependent on you and what you want to do. There is a wide roster of characters, and if they do appeal to you, then yeah, you can go through them. Once again, the characters carry this game, not the game, and that's fine. If I'm looking at soundtracks, I'd say that this game doesn't really have that memorable of soundtracks or specific scenes. Animation-wise, it's okay. I'd say the main things that are the focal points, the characters, as I mentioned before. The voice acting is amazing. No English voicing though. If you're looking to reroll, I'd say this is probably not a good idea. First off, because once again, the gameplay is just okay. But secondarily, it's more of a factor of you can't make guest accounts, so you're just binding it to the same email over and over again, just with salting throughout it. And that's not a fun experience. So I don't recommend it under that pretense. But if I'm talking about combat, the perfect idea is just to show you what it's like. So we'll run through it with this respective team. Now, you can auto the combat if you do want to. I can say full auto, and the game will just play itself for me. But this is basically what you'll be looking at throughout the entirety of the fight. This is obviously the arena, so the environment is a little bit different than what you may be used to depending on the circumstance, but this is still, nonetheless, situation. This is what it looks like. And while that's not bad, it may not be your cup of tea if you want something a bit more involved, if you want something that looks a bit better, if you want more flashy things, especially if you're used to something like a Hoyoverse game, i.e. R, ZZZ, Genshin Impact, Honkai Impact, and so on. This style and the graphics at least you're seeing here may not be your cup of tea. And I understand that. A lack of fan service may not appeal to you in the event that you like that within your game, because I know a lot of individuals pull for characters because they look hot or they look cute. And so this is a tentative recommendation. It's a great character, a great character-based story. It's nice to listen to. It's nice to read, but that is all I can give. I cannot say the gameplay is exceptional. I'd say maybe it's a 5 out of 10 because I prefer Blue Archive's chibi designs over this. Music-wise, the tracks aren't really memorable. And so whilst it may be nice to listen to in the background, it's not gonna wow you. Graphically, you can see what I'm dealing with here. This looks like an older game. It is an older game, and that's fine. Heaven Burns Red has a great character, has a great story, so I recommend it if you like that. I don't recommend it if you aren't interested in that at all. If you type skip stories, hey, you're not gonna have that much fun. That's gonna be it for me. I will see you next time.